So I have a series of specimens here. I'm going to start with this one here, right? So we all know that this is the lateral surface of the hemisphere, right? So when you look on the medial surface now, this is a sagittal view. When you look on the medial surface, you will see a number of things that I want to point out. So first thing I want to point out is this. Come back. I want to point out this. So we said this is the cortex, right? And deep in the cortex, we know we have these gray masses that we call the basal ganglia, right? When you look, guys, what we have done, I've dug out the corpus callosum, taken it out. I've taken out a good portion of the cingulate gyrus for us to see the deep structures inside. And that body that the pin is in, look at it. See that body the pin is in? This body the pin is in. Mitchell? No, not Mitchell.
Yeah.
What's his surname again?
Mitchell.
Mitchell, okay.
Yeah.
You see that body the pin is in?
Yeah.
Liz? What is this body the pin is in? Huh? Come on, basal ganglia, whole heap of things. Just tell me what is this one thing? This one thing is what? This is the head of the caudate nucleus. See that? So the pin is in the head of the caudate. See that? Richard? Head of caudate. Now, have you ever seen this before, guys? It's terrible. Anyway, that's head of caudate, right? I want you to notice something about it. The head is big and it looks like it's tapering as it goes this way. See it? It looks like it's getting smaller, right? Good. So of course the caudate nucleus has a head, then a body, and then a tail. I don't know if you've seen a diagram of it, but let me just give you a rough diagram. And by the way, it follows the contour of the lateral ventricle, right? So this is the head, everybody. So look on the head. The head is this big thing, and then you have a body, and then you have a tail like that. Alright? So just like that. Okay? So this is the head. But the entire caudate nucleus mirrors the contour of the lateral ventricle. Okay? So the head is in the frontal horn of the lateral ventricle. The body is in the body of the lateral ventricle. And then the tail now is in the temporal horn. But it looks like that, right? So what you're looking at, what I'm showing you now is the head of the caudate. Don't forget this picture that I'm showing you guys. Head of caudate. Yeah.
The lateral ventricle, right?
Yes. Now look at this now. So you see this? So I'm going to keep my white pin in the head. And then look here now. I put in this pink pin in another body. And I want you to see how close these two bodies are, but this one is a little bit behind. Right? Now from what we have done when we did endocrine, you should know what the second body is. The second body, this body is the what? Thalamus. That's the thalamus. Okay? That's the thalamus. Okay. Now, what is this? White and that's pink. Makes sense, right? Now look on this fiber system. Look on this fiber system now between the head of the caudate and the thalamus. So the green pin is in a robust fiber system between the two bodies. You see that? The green pin is in a big fiber system between the head of the caudate and the thalamus. You see that? Yes? So there's a groove. So there's a groove between the caudate nucleus and the thalamus. And then running in that groove are basically two structures. One of them is not so obvious, but this is obvious. No man, not garbage. This structure is what? Stria terminalis. That's the stria terminalis. Daniel? Stria terminalis. No man, you have to know. Let's write it down. Okay? So this is the stria. The body, the green pin is in the one. Stria terminalis. Now you should remember where the striate terminal is coming from and where it's going. The striate terminal is connected what? Amygdala to the septal area. Amygdala to septal area. Okay? What runs with this striate terminalis? The thalamus striate vein. Thalamus striate vein. When you write these things down and go home, you must read them, yeah? Read them, don't just write them down like that. Anyway, the subject of today's discussion is not these things, but I'm just doing the geography of this thing, right? So look here now, going back to the thalamus. Going back to the thing, the pink thing is in. That thalamus belongs to a group of structures called what? Diencephalon. And as you know, the biggest member of the diencephalon is the thalamus. So that's what we're focusing on now. What is below the diencephalon? The mesencephalon. So the midbrain starts below that now. So I'm going to take out these pins and we're going to now put the pins. I put in the green pin and the pink pin in the midbrain. So when you look at the sagittal section, below the thalamus is the midbrain. See that? So white pin, I don't want to put too many pins and complicate things, but the white pin is still in the thalamus, and then I should just use one color. You can't stay over there so long, you know, if you come close. No, that's what I mean. You can write this one. Write this one. Oh, I can go right beside that handsome young man right there. Okay? Anyway, come. So white pin in the what? Thalamus. And the two pink pins now in the midbrain. Okay? See that? Midbrain. Now this is something you must just, as you see, you must know. Now let me take out this white pin because that's history, we don't talk about that anymore. Now, this one here, this one, which part of the midbrain is this pin in? Don't say it yet, I want everybody to look. This one, alright, let me push this down further. So the shorter of the two pins, which part of the midbrain is it in? Don't say it, man. Which part of okay, everybody, which part of the midbrain is the shorter of the two pins in? Only two pins in there. So which part of the midbrain is the shorter of the two pins in, guys? Somebody tell me. Don't tell me what is not, you know what it is. I don't like that answer. That answer is not a good answer. I don't even want to use the word that comes to my mind. Okay, can I say something? What did I tell you? I told you, hold on, I told you. When I draw this big midbrain on the board, I say if you draw a horizontal line through the aqueduct, that divides the midbrain into a part above, that's the tectum, and the part below, I never call it tegmentum, what did I call it? Cerebral peduncle. So this shorter pin is in the cerebral peduncle.
Can you repeat about the line?
Huh?
What was it about the line?
And that's why you must come to class, you know, man. Look here, guys, quickly now, quickly. This is a waste of time, but quickly. When you draw a diagram of the midbrain, draw a diagram of the midbrain, right? This is the aqueduct of Sylvius, right? And I say if you draw a horizontal line through the aqueduct, it divides the midbrain into a tectum, and this part is the cerebral peduncle, okay? And of course, the cerebral peduncle now have substantia nigra in it. Substantia nigra is a part of the cerebral peduncle. Red nuclei are a part of it, and the crus cerebri are a part of it. And also, all of this area, we said was the tegmentum. That's a part of it too. All of this is tegmentum. Right? You get me? So the cerebral peduncle is composed of the tegmentum, substantia nigra, and crucerebri. Now on my diagram, look, on my specimen, look on my specimen. What is this? What is this little row there? That's the aqueduct of Sylvius. Okay? This is the aqueduct. This is the aqueduct, guys. Which means that what the tall pin is in is the tectum. So the tall pin is in the what? Tectum. And then the smaller pin now is in the cerebral peduncle.
Sorry, show me the aqueduct again.
Yes? So this is the aqueduct, see there?
Oh, okay.
And look what the aqueduct leading into, guys. Look what it's leading into. Fourth ventricle. See? Leading into the fourth ventricle. Alright, ease up. Aqueduct leading into the fourth ventricle. So everybody's supposed to know that by now. This is ABC. We don't want to be on ABC for the rest of the semester. Everybody get that? Good. Now, I want to make a point. So stand up here and make that point. Alright, so the point I want to make is this now. Yes, so all of this below the aqueduct is this cerebral peduncle, right? But this part at the back, this part close to the tectum, this part here. So again, look, all of this is the cerebral peduncle, but this middle part that's close to the tectum is the tegmentum. Okay? Is the tegmentum. So look at my specimen now. So this is the tectum, and all of this is the cerebral peduncle. But this back part of the cerebral peduncle is the what? Tegmentum. And look here. Look on the tegmentum of the midbrain. Look where it becomes continuous with tegmentum of the pons. And look here. Tegmentum of the pons becomes continuous with the tegmentum of the what? Medulla. In other words, the take-home message I want to say to you today is this. By and large, the dorsal part of the brainstem. Dirty hand of the specimen, sir. Thank you. Yes. The dorsal part of the brainstem is the what? Tegmentum. And it's a continuum. Okay? The tegmentum is a what? Yeah. So the midbrain tegmentum is not separate from the pons tegmentum and the medullary tegmentum. It's the same thing. It's a continuum. And what is the major structure, if you can call it that, that's in the tegmentum? The reticular formation. So the reticular formation is a continuum as well. Okay? There's no big demarcation. They just blend in with each other. Okay? So the tegmentum of the brainstem contains the reticular formation. And we already know what that is for. Arousal and wakefulness. But remember, we specified, however, remember, no other trouble now than there. Okay, so if you want something to sit on.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Somebody own it?
It was yeah, well, okay.
Yeah. Yes, guys. So look, the reticular formation of the brainstem generally is for arousal and wakefulness. But remember, we emphasize that reticular formation in the midbrain is particularly for what? Maintenance of consciousness. Don't forget that, maintenance of consciousness. Another thing I want to ask you now, which ascending pathways, I'll give it away basically, but which pathways travel through the tegmentum to the brainstem?
Sensory.
Just say the ascending sensory systems, right? And that includes dorsal column and spinal thalamic tract.
Sir, I can't understand the conscious part of the reticular formation.
Yeah, we should talk about that. Don't worry about that.
Sir,
Don't worry about that. Right? So, let's move on.
It's a consciousness of the
Maintenance of consciousness. Midbrain tegmentum, right? And remember we said that the periaqueductal gray is a part of that tegmentum of the midbrain, right? Reticular formation of the midbrain. Alright, come, moving on now. So guys, what I've just told you now is very important, because when you get a question that talk about a lesion in the tegmentum, then you can understand what that lesion will destroy, right? It's going to destroy the reticular formation and the ascending sensory system. But of course, if it's a massive destructive lesion, it can impinge on the ventral part of the brainstem and compress other things too. You get that? Get that? Yeah. There's no door or no wall between the tegmentum and the ventral part of the brainstem. So I'm saying a large destructive lesion can encroach on the ventral part of the brainstem and compress other things. And these other things we're talking about would be the what? Descending motor system. So make a note that yes, the ascending sensory system travels through the tegmentum of the brainstem, but the descending motor systems travel through the ventral part of the brainstem. Okay? The ventral part of the brainstem. And what is the most ventral part of the midbrain? The crus cerebri, the basis peduncle, the crus cerebri. That is where the descending motor systems travel through. What is the ventral part of the pons? Pons, the basilar part, the big belly guy. Right, big belly man. See him here? This is the big belly man here. Look, see him there? See that big belly? That's the ventral part of the pons, right? And that's where the what? The same motor systems that were in the crus, they're going to come out and travel through the ventral part of the pons. You get that? And then now, after they come out of the ventral part of the pons, what's the ventral part of the medulla? The pyramid. See them there? See the pyramid? Everybody see the pyramid? Good.
Wait, you said the ventral part of the pons is called what? Basilar something?
Basilar pons. Basilar pons.
Can you show me to the ventral part of the
Medulla?
pons?
Yeah man, see the big belly guy here. The dorsal part is around here, right? We should come around to that part, but this big belly guy is the what? Basilar pons. Basilar pons, right? I soon show you some things there, but basilar pons. And then now we said the ventral part of the medulla now is the what? Pyramids. And two pink pins are in the what? Pyramids. See that? Go on then. Everybody? So let me ask you another question now. If I were to make a slide of these pyramids and give you under the microscope and you look, what would you see? What would you see? Myelinated nerve fibers. That's what you're going to see. Okay? So let me ask you another question. Where would the cell bodies for these myelinated nerve fibers be? Say it loud. But look on the cortex. The cortex is a big place. It's like I ask you where the papine market is and papine. Right? The primary motor cortex. Okay? So the cell bodies for these axons that make up the pyramid are in the what? Primary motor cortex. In other words, if I were to ask you to give me another name for the pyramids, for what's in the pyramid, you're going to say corticospinal tract. That's true. Good. So look here, I take out the pin now, and I want to pass this thing around, but nobody wants to touch it, so let me hold it in my hand and tell me specifically. We're still talking about the pyramids, but I have a specific part of the pyramids resting on the pin. I want you to tell me what it is. Don't say it yet until everybody sees it. You want to just hand it to them? Everybody just take a look where what's resting on the pin. Okay. See that? Can you see that? So what's resting on the pencil? This decussation of the pyramid. Decussation of the pyramid. So what is decussating here now? Tell me, how much of the pyramid? 80%. A little bit more, 85 to 90%. 85 to 90. And this 85 to 90, guys, this 85 to 90, when it gets in the spinal cord, what do we call it? Lateral corticospinal tract. Now when you close your eyes and you see that cross section of the spinal cord, you should know exactly where that lateral corticospinal is. Where is it? Tell me specifically. The dorsolateral funiculus. And what is right beside it? Rubrospinal. Rubrospinal. So what's the destination though? What's the final destination of these lateral corticospinal? What's the final destination? Ventral horn of the spinal cord to synapse on what? 9. The ventral motor neurons. Alpha and gamma motor neurons. Okay? Good. You get that? So look here, remember now, 85 to 90% of these corticospinal will cross over to the contralateral side and end therefore in the contralateral side of the spinal cord. What will happen to the other 15%? So look here, let me, hold on. Look at this now. So guys, let us concentrate. The left corticospinal that's coming down, we say 85% of them will cross over to the right side of the spinal cord. What will happen to the other 15%? Which part of the spinal cord are they going to finally end up in? Same side. Okay, you agree? Same, no. When I say same side, not the ipsilateral side, the same right side. So those on the left side, 85% are going to over to the right side. The other 15% will end up on the right side too. But they're not going to cross in the medulla, they're going to cross in the spinal cord. So the other 15%, so you can see here that the 85 to 90 are crossing in the medulla. That's what we're seeing here, right? So the 85% are crossing in the medulla at the level of the decussation of the pyramid. What happened to the other 15%? They are going to decussate too, but they're going to decussate when they get to the spinal cord. They're going to go over and meet the other 85%, okay? But those we call the anterior corticospinal, or some people say ventral corticospinal. So they're going, which when you look, close your eyes and look on that cross section, where they're going to be? Yeah, they're going to be in the ventral or anterior white column.
Where did you say the spinal tract was in relation?
Same right beside the lateral corticospinal in the dorsolateral funiculus. Yes. All right, so let's move on now. So by the way, this is the genesis therefore. Remember now, these so-called left corticospinal are coming from the left primary motor cortex. And we see now that they end up on the right side of the spinal cord. So this is the genesis of the argument that the left cortex controls the right side of the body. You agree? Because this right side of the spinal cord will give rise to the right brachial plexus and the right lumbosacral plexus, and those will supply the musculature on the right side. Everybody get that? Very good. You guys are fine. Now I take this out and I put it just lateral to the pyramid. Look here. I am now just lateral to the pyramids. Everybody, I am now lateral to the pyramids. Just lateral to the pyramids. That's where the pin is. You see it? And I've seen a big body right there. Just lateral to the pyramids. Miss? Lateral to pyramids. Lateral to pyramids. What's that? Olive. Good. Olive. Yes, so this olive is the same thing that textbooks call the inferior olivary nuclear complex, or the inferior olive. Same thing, right? Now this body is very important in the motor system. It plays a very important part in the motor system. Most of its efferents are going to go where you think. Most of the efferents, the output from this, is going where? 2 places. Yes, to the red nucleus, only for rubral. Most of them going to go. A lot of them going on the cerebellum. cerebellum, and these fibers that leave the olivary nucleus to the cerebellum, you know what they call them? Climbing fibers. Climbing fibers. Climbing fibers. Right? Now let me just tell you something again. This inferior olivary nuclear complex, what it does, it encodes learned motor tasks, learned things. When you learn to ride a bicycle and dance and do all these tasks, play the piano, it is the inferior olive that take this learned information and send it over to the cerebellum and instruct the cerebellum how to make you move your limbs when you're riding the bicycle and so on, right? So let me repeat. The inferior olivary nuclear complex encodes learned behavior and send this over to the cerebellum. Yes. So one of the functions of the inferior olivary nuclear complex is to instruct the cerebellum about learned motor tasks. Let me put it that way. So again, one of the two main outputs coming out of the inferior olive goes to the red nucleus. So we call it olivorubral. One output also goes to the cerebellum, all part of the cerebellum. And we call it you can call it olivocerebellar, but it's the same olivocerebellar that they call climbing fibers. And of course, the input now to the inferior olivary nuclear complex, a large contingent of those fibers come from the red nucleus. So we say rubra olivary. Don't forget that connections in the brain are reciprocal. You give me something, I give it back to you, right? Anyway, so what we have done now, guys, we have just looked at some of the important structures in the brain stem. We have gone through all of the ventral part of the brain stem. Now look at this structure just lateral to the olive. Just lateral to the olive, Dale. Lateral to the olive. Lateral to the olive, we see another robust pathway. Lateral to the olive. Can you see over there? Lateral to the olive. Lateral to olive. I'll just tell you, lateral to the olive, guys, is the inferior cerebellar peduncles. Inferior cerebellar peduncles. And since we're on those peduncles, I'll just tell you some things about the peduncle. This one. By the way, this is a nice diagram, guys. You should take a picture. So the peduncles, we're talking about the inferior peduncles now. The inferior peduncles is composed mainly of fibers going where? Sorry about that. Don't worry, man. The dust cells in the lungs will just take care of them. So look here. So the inferior cerebellar peduncle, what is it composed mainly of? Fibers entering the cerebellum or fibers leaving the cerebellum? What do you think? Fibers entering the cerebellum. So the inferior cerebellar peduncle is mainly afferents. Now, you should try to find a mnemonic, to help you with these things. I had a mnemonic when I was doing my anatomy, and you might say it's a stupid mnemonic, and it may well be, but I use that to help me. VISCOR as the afferents that travel through the inferior peduncle, VISCOR. And again, it may be stupid to you, and it wasn't stupid to me, right? This I, why did I put it? Because it reminds me that it's the inferior peduncle I'm talking about. But anyway, this is vestibular cerebellar fibers. So one of the afferents that travel through the inferior peduncle is the vestibular cerebellar. When you do cerebellum, we'll know what the significance of that, but I don't want to waste time on it. Vestibular cerebellar. Just to tell you, it's coming from the vestibular apparatus to the cerebellum, and it's mainly for balance. Yeah? And then now, This S has a subscript D, dorsal spinocerebellar pathway. Dorsal spinocerebellar pathway, transmitting proprioception, 2-point touch, vibration, sense, and so on, from mid-trunk all the way down to the big toe. Of course, the C is cuneo-cerebellar. Cuneo, transmitting the same thing like the dorsal spinocerebellar, but from upper limb and upper trunk regions.
Sir, question, sir. You said from thorax.
Mid-thoracic region down to big toe.
Stop at LFB? Clark's column?
No, we'll deal with that, but no. One step at a time. And then we say C is cuneo-cerebellar, and it's transmitting the same thing that dorsal spinocerebellar transmitting, but it's transmitted from the upper trunk and upper limb. And O is what we just talked about, the olivocerebellar, which are the climbing fibers. And then the R now, what do you think the R is? Is it rubrospinal or rubrocerebellar? No, garbage. That is from the reticular formation. Good. So this is a group of nuclei they call pre-cerebellar nuclei, and it's a wide group of reticular nuclei. So the reticular formation sends some fibers over to the cerebellum through the inferior peduncle as well. All right, so that's a little thing. So that's mnemonic I used, and then now, so the inferior peduncle is mainly fibers entering the cerebellum. But this same inferior peduncle have one little set of fibers coming out of the cerebellum. Where do you think those would be? Fastigii bulbar. Write that down. Fastigii bulbar. When you do cerebellum, you will learn all of that. Fastigii bulbar. So now you know everything about the inferior cerebellar peduncle. Let's go through the superior peduncle. Alright? Which we're going to talk about. Don't forget about it. Alright, so that's the inferior peduncle. What about this? What about that the pin is in? All you have to do is just get a visual, write it down, go and read it out of the bar, and you're gone clear. Right? So, see that? What is that? Middle cerebellar peduncle. And by the way, just make a note that the inferior peduncle connects what to what? Cerebellum to the medulla. And now the middle peduncle is connecting the pons to the medulla. See that? Sorry, the pons to the cerebellum. Alright. Now, I want everybody to take a good look at this ventral pons and tell me what you notice. Don't say it yet. Don't say it yet. Just look. Look on the pons. Liz. Right? Look on the ventral pons. You see it? Tell me what you notice about it. Any little thing, even if it looks stupid. Yeah, the pons to the cerebellum. Yeah, the big belly guy. Look on the big belly guy and tell me what you notice. Well, I hate when you're so far, you know. Honestly, I don't like it. I don't know why you always say, what do you come right there?
Towards the pin, sir.
Whole thing, man. Oh, you don't want to come beside me? Isa, can you tell us what you notice about the big belly guy? Yeah, she noticed some lines. You see the lines going across? Everybody see the lines? You don't see the lines? The girl wants a pair of glasses. You know? See now? The line? The line?
Let me see it now, sir. Okay, sir.
Yes. So what do you think these lines are, guys? Transverse pontine fibers. Transverse pontine fibers. Let me explain this thing to you now. Let me tell you, if after you come to this class, you don't know nothing about it, I don't know what to say. Now look here, guys. So this is the pons, look. So this is a diagram of the pons. Put a little middle cerebellar peduncle there. So that's the pons there. That's the midline. This is, let's say that's the cortex on the left side, cerebral cortex. Cerebral cortex on the right side, right? We'll talk a little bit about this pons soon. But the pons have several things in there, including these nuclei. We call the what? Pontine nuclei. Now listen, you see, every time you contemplate a motor task, if I said, well, I'm sick and tired of these people, let me leave. From the time I conceive of the idea, and even while I'm leaving, the cortex will give rise to a lot of fibers coming down to the pons. What we call these fibers? Corticopontine fibers. And we can divide them into what? Frontopontine, temporopontine, occipitopontine, parietopontine. All of these groups of pontine fibers are sending information down to the same side of the pons. Ipsilateral pontine nuclei, they're going. Ipsilateral pontine nuclei. Okay? What do you think is the significance? What information the cortex is relaying to these pontine nuclei? Information about motor activity that is either already in progress or about to occur. You get that? So the cortex, the whole cortex, telling the pons, you know what? Solomon look like he planned to leave. Okay? And then look what the pons do now. The pons get that information about that Solomon want to leave. And look what the pons do with it. The pons relay the information over to the contralateral cerebellum and tell the cerebellum that Solomon wants to leave. And it is these fibers that are crossing the midline that we see on the surface of the pons there, as we call them, the transverse pontine fibers. You get that? So this entire pathway, we can broaden it now and call it corticopontocerebellar pathway. Is just to inform the cerebellum about motor activity that is either already in progress or about to occur. Why does the cerebellum need to know that Solomon going outside there? What do you think? Why? Huh? Exactly. So the cerebellum, the particular part of the cerebellum is what we call the neo or the pontocerebellum. That part is concerned with synergy of movement, coordinated muscle action. Okay? So that part of the cerebellum, the neocerebellum, is most developed in us. Okay? It is the most recent part of the cerebellum to develop. That's why they call it neocerebellum. Okay? Cockroach don't have that part. Cockroach don't have it. Dogs have one, but it's not so hot. Huh? Who that? Cockroach? Yeah, man, I'm of a different system. Pass it what? But we just said frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe. That's why we call it frontopontine, parietopontine, temporopontine, occipitopontine, right? And those frontopontine ones, they're coming from a wide area of the frontal lobe. Anyway, so this is what is happening. Transverse pontine fibers, see them here? They're coming from the pontine nuclei over to the cerebellum.
Contralateral.
Yes, they're going to the contralateral cerebellum. So you can call them pontocerebellar if you want. Right? No. You get that? And just in a nutshell, we're not doing cerebellum, but I'll tell you what happened now. The cerebellum now going to get the information and give rise to its own pathway now. So remember now, although I am conceiving of this idea to leave, what eventually going to allow me to execute this movement is the cortex, you know. Which part of the cortex? Corticospinal tract. But the corticospinal tract needs some additional help, needs the cerebellum to sort of synergize the movement, right? So the cerebellum will give rise to something we call dentatorubrathalamic. And this dentatorubrathalamic is going to, remember now, is this left cortex conceive of the thought initially, you know, and send the information over to the right cerebellum. The right cerebellum now will respond and give the dentatorubrathalamic that is going to cross the midline, rubrathalamic, through the contralateral red nucleus to the contralateral thalamus and then back to the left cortex to influence what? Corticospinal tract. So, I didn't want to spend too much time on this because this is not the subject or discussion, but we can talk about it, right? So, remember now, I conceive of an idea. My left cortex conceive to go pick up something. And then the various frontal pontine, parietal pontine, whatever, send information to the same left side of my pons and tell these pontine nuclei, Solomon want to pick up something. So the relay occurs here, and then the same pontine nuclei go over and tell the contralateral, the right cerebellum, that Solomon wants to do something. Cerebellum quickly say, okay, let me make sure that when Solomon execute this movement, it's not done in a puppet-like manner. It will be now synergized. So the cerebellum's job is to synergize my movement. So when I walk over, I just do it nice and smooth, right? Right? Or when I pick up something, I pick it up in a nice coordinated way. Because remember now, a useful movement going to involve all these joints. And you don't want the hamstring muscles to be contracting the same time when the quadriceps are contracting. You want one group to contract while the other one relax and so on. And so you get a nice smooth movement. And that is what the cerebellum does.
So, does the cerebellum have any activity on the interneurons for them?
Fully for activity, a lot, but we just want to go through the basic things first, right? So this is what the cerebellum does now. It synergizes the movement and give rise to the, when I said dentata, it's because the deep nucleus of the ponta cerebellum is a dentate nucleus. And the output from the cerebellum come out of these deep nuclei. So you're going to get the dentata, rubrathalamic, and the thalamic nucleus going to project back to the same cortex that gave rise to this thing in the first place. And then now, once it goes to the cortex, it's going to stimulate the cortex to give rise to the what? Corticospinal tract. And when the corticospinal tract on the left side comes down, what's going to happen? It's going to cross at the level of the medulla and go over to the right side. You see that? So what we say therefore, the left cortex controls the right side of the body. But remember, it was the right cerebellum that stimulates this left cortex when it gives rise to the dentata or rubrathalamic. So we can say therefore that the right cerebellum control the same side of the body, the right side. You get that? Mm-hmm. So let me put it another way. A cerebellar lesion, guys, a cerebellar lesion going to result in ipsilateral problem. Okay? So in this case, since we're talking about pontocerebellum, a lesion in the pontocerebellum going to cause ipsilateral what? Decomposition of movement. Or ipsilateral desynergy. If you have a lesion in the pontocerebellum, you're going to get desynergy on the same side of the lesion. So if it is the right side of the pontocerebellum, you're going to get desynergy on the right side. Okay? Anyway, that's not what we're here for. Alright, so we finished, guys. So we finished the ventral part of the brainstem. See that? Ventral part. We've gone through all of it. We talk about this. What is this? What is the pinning? What is the pinning? The pin is in the same cerebral peduncle. See our next one on the other side? Now what is the space between the two cerebral peduncles? Interpeduncular fossa. Okay? Interpeduncular fossa. Now what are some of the things we find in this fossa? Tell me the main one. First of all, the mammillary bodies. See the two breasts there, you see them? Right? Beautiful. Okay, mammillary bodies are in the interpeduncular fossa. What else is in there? The posterior perforated substance, which is really blood vessels diving in. What else we find there? Infundibulum, median eminence. And don't forget that a nerve comes out of the brainstem through there, which is the what? Third nerve, oculomotor nerve. And I have it to show you right now. Relax. So this is the what? Ventral aspect of the brainstem. Now we turn around to the dorsal aspect. Look. And the first thing we notice when we go into the dorsal aspect are these four bodies. See them? Right? So I'm moving. So the first thing we notice at the level of the midbrain on the dorsal aspect, we're seeing the corpora quadrigemina. See them? So the dorsal aspect of the midbrain has the corpora quadrigemina. See that? Dorsal aspect of the quadrigemina. Right? Of course, the top ones are the superior colliculi. Bottom one is the inferior. What do you think this is? That little thing that resting on the tip of the pin. So this little thing resting on the tip of the pin, above the level of the superior colliculus, what is that? That is the what? Pineal body. See that, miss? Pineal body. See that, sir? Pineal. So close it is to the superior colliculus. That is why a large destructive lesion here can cause sunset gaze. Okay? Remember what we said that is? We said the center for upward gaze is at the level of the superior colliculus. So that this gland, this tumor can compress the superior colliculus. Anyway, moving on now. So yes, the corpora quadrigemina are located in the dorsal aspect of the midbrain. We want to start off by talking a little bit now about the superior colliculus. Let's talk about the superior colliculus. Give me a nice heading. Richard, you're not right on there. Oh, you get the right on. So the superior colliculi, what we want to say about it, first thing is, if you were to encapsulate the function of superior colliculus in a few words, what you'd say? Vision. Just say eye reflex. I don't like this visual reflex because it complicates things. People start thinking that, oh, maybe it has something to do with vision. Right? I would say eye visual reflexes, yes? Eye reflexes. You get that? So eye movement. Right? That's what the superior colliculus is involved. Eye reflexes. Get that? Good. And we also have to emphasize that the center for upward gaze is also at that level too. Now, what are some of the connections of this superior colliculus? We want to talk about that. I want you to give me the main input, major input to the superior colliculus. And it's not. Yes, it's corticotectal. Okay? Everybody get that? So the main input is what? Corticotectal. Now let me ask a stupid question now. Where is this corticotectal coming from? From the cortex. But as you can see, look, cortex is a big place. So I want you to point and tell me where exactly you're going to say what? Frontal eye field and where else? Primary visual cortex. Good. So this so-called corticotectal is coming from two places. Frontal eye field and primary visual cortex. Now when I showed you that beautiful diagram of the superior lateral surface of the brain, I showed you where the frontal eye field was. It's Brodmann's area what? 8. Brodmann's area 8. And that 8, when I draw the 8, how did I draw it? Like a pair of glasses. Why did I do that? Because I want you to know that Brodmann's area 8 is for eye movement. Okay? Eye movement. So every time you see that 8, you see a pair of glasses. One step at a time. You'd never come to the class. That's the problem. You have to come to the class. Right? You have to get rid of those girls. Okay, so now, how do these corticotectal fibers get to the superior colliculus? internal capsule first, and then finally where? Superior brachium. Very good. Very good. Richard look like him start to get rid of the girls already. Very good. Yes? So the corticotectal get to the superior colliculus by first traveling through the internal capsule and then through the superior brachium to get to the superior colliculus. Good. Now we just said it. The part that's coming from the Brodmann's area 8 is for eye movement. What is that part coming from primary visual cortex for? Accommodation. Posterior limb. Brachium, not bronchium.
What is that?
It's just a pathway. I'm going to show you. Again, come to the class. Right? All right. Let's go. Can we continue? Can we
What did
continue?
you just say about the primary visual cortex?
Yes, that part of the corticotectal that's coming from primary visual is for accommodation. Can we finish? Can we continue? Give me another input to superior colliculus. Another input? Give me the big ones first. So the biggest corticotectal, another big one is the what? Spinotectal. Spinotectal. So we just said that the corticotectal was for accommodation and for visual reflexes or eye movement. What is the spinotectal for? What is the spinotectal for? What is the spinotectal pathway for, Lisa? Yeah, so the spinotectal pathway is the afferent limb, right? It is the afferent limb of a reflex pathway for the turning of eyes and the head towards the source of a cutaneous stimulus. So it's the afferent limb of a reflex pathway for turning the eyes and the head towards the source of a cutaneous, you have to put the word cutaneous in there, a cutaneous stimulus. That is what the spinotectal is for. Okay? It is the afferent limb of a reflex pathway for the turning of the eyes and the head towards the source of a cutaneous stimulus. Give me another big one.
So that would be the cortex.
Hmm?
The reflex that opens the cortex. The cortex, I think that.
Yes. No, you mean the efferent limb? No, man. The efferent limb would be tectobulbar and tectospinal. And tectobulbar would be going to where? The bulb, which is the brainstem, where the what? Cranial nerve motor nuclei that move the eye are located. And which nerve are those? Cranial nerve 3, 4, and 6. And tectospinal will be going to the cervical part of spinal cord for moving the head. Again.
Yeah.
Come to the class, Richard. Right?
Yes, yeah.
Right about it.
Exactly.
Come to the class. I'm troubling him with my friend, you know? Alright. Give me another, so we're going how much? 2? Give me a third big pathway now, not the little ones yet. Big one. Another input comes from the where? Inferior colliculus. Inferior colliculus. What is that pathway for? It's another reflex pathway for turning the eyes and the head. But to the source of a loud sound. Very good.
So the pathway is called from inferior colliculus.
You can call it collicular. Understand?
Just said collicular.
Yes. Yep. Good. And of course, you have to remember that the inferior colliculus is on the auditory pathway, right? So make a note of that. So we know that, guys, most of the output from the inferior colliculus is going to go to the MGB, right? And then from there to the primary auditory cortex. But we're saying a few of those fibers bypass the MGB and go to the superior colliculus. And that one is for the reflex movement of the eyes and the head towards the source of some loud, unsuspected sound, like a gunshot. Give me another input. You can't give me the small ones now. Contralateral superior colliculus. And let me ask you, this colliculus on the left side send fibers to the colliculus on the right side. Where do these fibers pass to get to the other side? Is it through the corpus callosum or through the internal capsule? So you get two choices. Corpus callosum, internal capsule. None of them? Alright, so it pass through. So first of all, if it's going to go from one side to the next, it must be passing through commissural fibers. And how much commissural fibers, you know? Corpus callosum, anterior commissural, posterior commissural. They pass through posterior commissural. So all I have to do is put a little cerebral cortex in it and work it out, right? All right. So the two superior colliculi connect with each other via the posterior commissural. Any more inputs to superior colliculus? Yes. The optic tract. Very good. Optic tract. So now we have gone through almost all of the inputs to the superior colliculus. Do you know any output? Tectospinal and tectobulbar. Very good. Good. So we have now exhausted the superior colliculus. Let's go now to the inferior colliculus. So kingpin is in the inferior colliculus. And what we want to ask now, I'm going to put a green pin in the fibers coming out of the inferior colliculus. Let me put this inferior colliculus on that side. And I'll give you the green pin now is in the fibers coming out of the inferior colliculus. But before we look on this, what is the input to the inferior colliculus called? Give me the input, the name of the pathway. So we know what is going in there, right? Auditory information. But I want to know what is that pathway called? Not called cortical or anything. No. No, it can't be nothing dynamic. That makes sense. No man, I'm talking about fibers going to the inferior colliculus. Does this ring a bell? All right, let me try to jog your memory now. You know the ribbon-shaped system that we saw when we did the brainstem, the lemniscal system. I'm going to call some names, and I bet you somebody going to tell me. Medial lemniscus. What is that? That is dorsal column system. Then we have a trigeminal lemniscus. So what is it? Lateral lemniscus. Very good. So the input to the inferior colliculus is lateral lemniscus. If somebody asks, where is this lateral lemniscus coming from? You can say the dorsal and ventral cochlear nuclei, superior olivary nucleus, right? But don't forget that now, lateral lemniscus, that is carrying auditory information to the what? Inferior colliculus. Now guys, look at this now. So the pink pin is in the inferior colliculus. I want you to tell me what the green pin is in. Don't say it. So pink pin in the inferior colliculus. What is the green pin in? So pink pin in inferior colliculus. Take one of gloves. So pink pin in inferior colliculus and green pin in what? So you look on past it to show the people behind you. Show the people behind you. No, you have it, so just show them. So green pin is in what? We know the pink pin is in the inferior colliculus. Don't say it. Right? Dorsal and ventral. Dorsal, superior olivary. What is it? Yeah, man, inferior olivary is something different. Yeah, so the lateral lemniscus, we say, is coming from the dorsal and the ventral cochlear nuclei and the superior olive. And by the way, guys, you see the superior olive? The superior olive helps us to judge distance and direction of the sound. Okay? Distance and direction. So pink pin is in the. No man, I don't want you to contaminate your hand. Pink pin is in the inferior colliculus, but I want to know what the green pin is. Don't say it.
Direction, no?
You can't say it?
Distance and direction.
It's already up.
See it?
Distance and direction.
Yeah, I told him.
You can see? Alright. So we know the pink pin is in the inferior colliculus. I want to know what's the green pin.
Direction.
And that's one of the.
I want to know what's
Or
the
that's
green
where the
pin is.
lateral limb is.
You see that? See that? You see side? So pink pin is in the inferior colliculus. What's the green pin in? What's the green pin? Well, I know Lisa know what the green pin is in. So what's the green pin in, guys? Yeah, it's in fibers coming out of the inferior colliculus. Those fibers are called inferior brachium. Inferior brachium. So what is the output from the inferior colliculus? Inferior brachium. Now, I don't want you to confuse this issue because look, inferior brachium represents fibers coming out of the inferior colliculus. But the superior brachium were fibers going into the superior colliculus. So it's not an equivalent situation. Now, do you know where these inferior brachial fibers going? What's the destination? These fibers, MGB, MGB. So look here now, I'm going to take the pink pin out of the inferior colliculus and I'm going to put it in the MGB. So look here. So the green pin is in the inferior brachium and look where the pink pin is in. See that bump? That bump is the MGB. See it? See? When you take it off? Alright, let me come around. So sorry, Daniel, look. So this is the inferior brachium and that's the MGB. See it? See the inferior brachium and that's MGB.
Okay.
Inferior brachium, MGB, see it? See that? Inferior brachium, MGB. Inferior brachium, inferior brachium, MGB. See that? Inferior brachium, inferior brachium, MGB, right?
I'm still going. It's looking at everybody.
So that's the inferior colliculus, that's the inferior brachium, see the MGB there, see the bump? So inferior colliculus, inferior brachium, MGB. Inferior colliculus, inferior brachium, MGB. Right? And by the way guys, remember that the MGB is a what? What's the MGB? It's a thalamic nucleus. The MGB is a thalamic nucleus. Yeah, that back part is the pulvinar. Okay, so look here now. Those fibers. Huh? You didn't see it? Pink pin is in the MGB. That's the inferior brachium. That's the inferior colliculus. So look here, guys. Look here. Can I say something? Can I say something? So once the MGB receives the inferior brachium, the MGB is now going to relate to where? Anything coming out of thalamus is going to cortex. So the MGB going to relate where? Yeah, HL's convolutions, primary auditory cortex, HL's convolution. You get me? Remember? Okay, good. We're moving on.
From the artificial primary.
So don't forget, guys, anything coming out of thalamus, is destined for the cortex. Okay? Alright, so we're moving on now. We are moving on. What do I want to show you now? Good. See it here? Fantastic. Now guys, so we just talked about the inferior colliculus, and I want you to note this space now. Look, you see this space here below the level of the inferior colliculus? That space is the what? Fourth ventricle. That space is the fourth ventricle. All of this space in here is the fourth ventricle. You're looking into the what? Fourth ventricle, right? We're looking into the fourth ventricle. Now, you notice that there's nothing, guys, you notice there's nothing above here. There's a thin film of tissue that covers over the fourth ventricle. That's called the what? Medullary velum. So there's a superior medullary velum that forms the medial part of the roof of the fourth ventricle. But look, the lateral part of the roof of the fourth ventricle is formed by the two structures the pin is in. Look, the pin, these two structures the pin is in, forms the lateral part of the roof of the fourth ventricle. So that's the two pins are in the lateral part of the roof of the fourth ventricle. You can see? Okay?
Yeah, it's an anterior medullary something.
Yeah, the superior medullary velum. So those pins now are in the lateral part of the roof. So the gap in the middle, everybody, the gap in the middle was formed by the superior medullary velum. Then on either side of that now, we have these two structures that are forming the lateral part of the roof. Look at that. It's beautiful. These structures form the lateral part of the roof of the fourth ventricle. See that? These structures form the lateral part of the roof of the fourth ventricle. What do you think these two structures are? Superior cerebellar peduncle. Superior cerebellar peduncle. So we know that the middle peduncle connects the pons to the cerebellum, inferior peduncle medulla to the cerebellum, and now the superior peduncle connects what? The midbrain to the cerebellum. Okay? Velum. Yeah, in the middle part, the medial part of the roof, right? Right there. Yes? So look here. I could just be innovative and make my own superior medullary velum, right? Since you're so anal and want to okay? There's nothing wrong with being anal, you know. Everybody start laughing. Nothing wrong with the anals. You know, it's a good thing. So look here, you see this thing I put over the top? That's the superior medullary velum. When I move it, it's right into the fourth ventricle. Okay? So this superior medullary velum is forming the what? Central part of the roof. See it? So the central part of the roof is formed by my little piece of paper here. When I tear off the central part of the roof, you're looking straight into the what? Belly of the fourth ventricle. And by the way, the belly of the fourth ventricle is called the what? Rhomboid fossa. Fourth ventricle is the same thing as the rhomboid fossa. Now the reason why you never... Oh Lord. Yes, Daniel, look. That's the roof there. See that? And then on either side of the roof, we have still roof, but lateral part of the roof. That's the superior cerebellar peduncle. Guys, can I talk now? No. So this superior cerebellar peduncle, I just want us to know what it is. It is one of the what? The 3 pairs of roads that connect the cerebellum to other places, right? We done 2 pairs already, middle and inferior peduncle. And we said that the inferior peduncle was mainly what? Fibers entering the cerebellum. So the inferior peduncle was mainly afferents. But it have one little efferent, which is the Fastigii bulbar. Then we said the middle peduncle is purely afferent. There's nothing else passing through the middle peduncle but what? Pontocerebellar fibers. And now the superior peduncle is mainly fibers leaving the cerebellum. Okay? You get that? You get that, miss? You sure? Okay. I'll make sure that everybody gets it. Joe? Agree with me? All right, so the superior peduncle, guys, is fibers mainly what? Leaving. Notice I didn't say only fibers leaving, mainly. And what are those fibers? Dentatorubral-thalamic and interpositor-rubral.
What's the second one?
Interpositor-rubral. Now, if you know where the dentatorubral-thalamic come from, you know the function of that pathway. Where it coming from? It's coming from the neocerebellum. So what's the function of it? Synergy of movement. Okay? Yeah, then the interpositor-rubral is coming from the what? Interposed nucleus. Which is what? Which is what? Guys, the interpositor-rubral is coming from the interposed nucleus. Which is what? Which is globose and Embiliform. So let me show you something. Look at this. Everybody, pay attention to me. So look, this is a cross-section of the cerebellum. Cross-section of the cerebellum like that. You see the midline. And the cerebellum has 4 pairs of deep nuclei. One in the midline. You have one guy here. And another one right beside it. And then a big one on the lateral side. So 4 pairs of deep nuclei. This one in the midline starts with an F. So I say feel. This one is good every day. Feel good every day. So from medial to lateral, we have feel good every day.